Hey kids, welcome back! Today's lesson, how to fail your way into becoming rich. Meet the man who made every wrong financial decision possible, and got paid for all of them. His name was Timothy Dexter. Historians describe him as, quote, barely literate. He described himself as the greatest philosopher in the Western world. One of them was wrong. Spoiler, it kind of wasn't him. Dexter was born in 1747 on a farm in Malden, Massachusetts. His family was so poor he dropped out of school at age 8. He became an apprentice leather dresser, which is exactly as glamorous as it sounds. At 22, he moved to Newburyport with about $9 to his name. There he discovered the one investment that never fails. A rich widow, he married Elizabeth Frothingham and moved straight into her very nice house. Congratulations, Tim, but that was just the seed money. During the Revolutionary War, Congress printed its own money, Continental dollars. By the end of the war, it was worth roughly nothing. People were literally using it as wallpaper, so naturally, Dexter spent his wife's entire savings buying as much of it as he could. Everyone in town had the same reaction. You absolute idiot. Then in 1790, Alexander Hamilton happened. The new government agreed to swap old worthless paper for real solid money, and the town idiot woke up one of the richest men in Massachusetts. And this is the part where his life stops making sense. It only gets worse. With his new fortune, Dexter tried to join Newburyport High Society. High Society said no. The rich merchants hated him. No education, no manners, and somehow more money than them. So they came up with a plan. Feed Dexter the worst business advice imaginable. Let him bankrupt himself, clean, elegant, foolproof. This plan is about to backfire so hard it becomes a history lesson. Step 1. They told him to ship bed warming pans to the West Indies. A warming pan is a pan of hot coals you stick into your bed. The West Indies is the Caribbean. Average temperature, extremely hot. Dexter said, great idea, and shipped 42,000 of them. The whole town gathered to laugh. Then the ships came back. Full of money. Caribbean sugar planters had bought every single pan to have molasses ladles. Dexter made a 79% profit selling bed heaters to the tropics. The merchants tried again. Tim, buddy, ship wool mittens to the Caribbean. We did. Asian trade ships docked there, bought all of them for resale in Siberia. Okay, new plan. The single dumbest idea in the English language. Sell coal to Newcastle. Newcastle being the city that produces England's coal. That's like selling sand to a beach. It cannot work. Led into Newcastle in the middle of a coal miners' strike. The city sitting on all the coal mines suddenly had no coal at all. He sold every last lump at a premium price. At this point, I would assume he'd made a deal with the devil. The devil denies any involvement. Meanwhile, stray cats were overrunning Newburyport, so Dexter bought them, all of them. He shipped boatloads of cats to Caribbean warehouses that were drowning in rats. Cats, sold. Rat problem, solved. Profit, obscene. Then he hoarded 342 tons of whalebone for no clear reason. Immediately after, whalebone corsets became the hottest fashion in the country. And guess who owned basically all the whalebone in New England? So what does a barely literate millionaire do with effectively infinite money? He names himself Lord Timothy Dexter. America doesn't have lords. He did not care. He bought a mansion and filled the garden with 40 giant wooden statues. Statues of the greatest men in history, George Washington, Napoleon, Adam and Eve. And towering above them all, Timothy Dexter himself. His own statue read, "The greatest philosopher in the Western world." He also hired himself a personal poet laureate, like kings have. The poet was a local fish seller named Jonathan Plummer. His entire job followed Dexter around, composing poems about how great he was. Then, one day, Lord Dexter decided to become a writer. He wrote a book called A Pickle for the Knowing Ones. 8,000 words, 0 punctuation, capital letters sprinkled completely at random. It's basically one endless sentence complaining about politicians, the church, and his wife. People loved it. It went through 8 editions. For the second edition, readers complained about the missing punctuation. So Dexter added an extra page, 13 lines of nothing but commas and periods. With one instruction, pepper and salt it as you please. I'm not saying he invented trolling, but he perfected it 2 centuries early. Which brings us to his final greatest experiment. Dexter wanted to know exactly how much people would miss him when he died. So he did what any completely normal person would do. He faked his own death. He planned the whole funeral, invited the town, and hid upstairs to watch. About 3,000 people actually showed up. Great turnout, just one problem. His wife was not crying hard enough. So, mid-funeral, the corpse marched downstairs and started yelling at her. Imagine mourning a man who was actively scolding you at his own funeral. From that day on, he told guests his wife had sadly passed away. And the woman living in his house was just Mrs. Dexter, the ghost. Dexter died for real in 1806 at 59. This time, notably fewer people checked whether he was faking. He left a chunk of his fortune to the poor of Newburyport, the same town that laughed at him. So what's the lesson here, kids? Every stupid decision Dexter made worked out because he actually went and did it. The smart people spent their lives laughing. The idiot spent his getting paid. History doesn't remember the clever merchants who fed him bad advice. It remembers the man in the tricorn hat, first in the East, first in the West, and apparently the greatest philosopher in the Western world. Maybe luck really does favor the clueless. Anyway, I'm off to buy warming pans. See you next time, kids.